We move on now to our very first session of the day. Again, HR development principles for shaping tomorrow's leaders. I say that to you. If you were to choose four, just four, what would be your four? Some of you probably have a couple, maybe all four, in fact. But our next speaker, our first speaker now, is going to share with us her perspectives, her insights as to the key four principles for shaping tomorrow's leaders, a framework that we can use and help us make sense of this, and certainly use this as a resource as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our virtual stage right now, Managing Director of the People's Partner, Michelle Raymond. Michelle, come on in.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you. We can see you. I'm very colourful this morning. I wonder, where are you right now, Michelle? I wonder.
Oh, I've just got back from Dubai, so I am ready to get going and the blues of UK in its weather.
Listen, Michelle, I'm going to leave you now, and I'll join you a little bit later on, just before we finish.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to share with you some of my experiences and learnings around shaping the future of leadership. So I want to get started straight away. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm going to share my screen with you now. And if you have any questions throughout, please let me know and I will answer them at the end. So welcome to the essential principles of shaping tomorrow's leaders. And I want to tell you a little bit about myself so you know why I'm the right person to be speaking about this. So I've been in HR for more than 25 years. And yes, I know I look young, but I have been in HR for 25 years and I have worked in different industries, from private companies to large government contracts and agencies. So I have seen how things have changed throughout the years I've been working, and I've identified why we need to fortify ourselves for the future. I'm also a multi-award-winning entrepreneur, so I work a lot with entrepreneurs who want to work within the corporate industry. So these will be small, diverse business owners. I deliver a number of talks within universities. I've been doing that now for a number of years. So in the UK, I work with one of the biggest universities, actually not just in the UK, but one of the most prestigious universities in the world. And I deliver leadership training for their emerging leaders. I'm also a trainer for a number of companies. They include the likes of Amazon, National Rail, Legal and General, BT, and the list goes on. So I say this and I share that with you because I want you to get an understanding of who's before you, who's speaking with you. And I want to share with you some 4 principles and give you some tangible examples. So if you're watching this right now, please have a pen and paper ready and we will get started. So these are the 4 areas, the essential principles. Enlightenment. This is the foremost principle. We're going to go into details a bit later, but when you have enlightenment, another way of this, to see this as self-awareness. When we have this, it changes the game, not just for ourselves, but for others. And we're going to talk about that. We have evolution. And this, I think, is very important with the changing landscape that we are working in, and the changes that are happening, not just in our own companies, but further afield within society, within communities. We have to be able to adapt. And we've got to talk more about how do I adapt, but stay authentic to who I am as a leader. That's important. Ethical leadership. I can't wait to be able to share with you an example where I was in a sticky situation of, do I go with the company or do I stick to my ethics and my values? And for HR leaders and for any leaders, any type of leaders, we can find ourselves in that juxtaposition What do I do? So we'll speak about that. And the last one is empowering others, because the best leaders in the world are the leaders who can empower others. So those are the 4 E's: enlightenment, evolution, ethical leadership, and empowering others. So let's look at them one by one. So enlightenment, what does that mean? And we're talking about another term for it that people understand is self-awareness. So when you have true enlightenment or self-awareness, you understand how you operate. So you be more empathetic. There's a notion around empathetic leadership, and we need more of that. I think with the way the world is going, we need more leaders to step up and be more empathetic and to understand the emotions of their employees. Not everything is black and white. Not everything is black and white. So we have to understand there are gray areas. In terms of those gray areas, how can you as a leader be more aware to those gray areas? So what when we put this into practice and we have policies and procedures that are black and white, and I know there are other HR professionals, and I totally agree with them. They are coming in and they're saying we need to be more dynamic. What we have grown up knowing, this is how it needs to be done. We have to be open to change. All right. And balanced decision making. What does that mean? It's understanding your own biases and how they can impact the way you make decisions. So I have to be so self-aware as a Black woman in HR. I don't go through the same experiences as a white man in HR. So we come from different worlds. We have 2 different maps of the world. And I have to understand I have my own biases and somebody else has their own biases. But how do we understand this to make sure that it doesn't impact our decision making? We have to be brave enough to talk about these things. There's a program and there's a film, and in this film she says that I need to pull up my big girl panties. That's a metaphor to say I have to be brave, I have to stand straight, I have to be big enough to talk about these things and understand that I do have biases, but I have to make sure that these biases don't impact my decision making. And that's where enlightenment comes in. But personal development is the one for me, is being self-aware to be better positioned for your own growth and your own personal development. And the reason why I share this is because there was a time when I wasn't aware. And if I want to be a better leader in the future, I have to be aware of my own personal growth and my own personal development. And this is why I took on extra courses like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I did some training on EQ, which is understanding your own intelligence, your own emotional intelligence, because it makes me a better leader. It'll make you a better leader, especially for the future. So let's put this into practice and see what we can do. Some of the things I would encourage anyone watching this in any discipline that you're in is to practice mindfulness. What is mindfulness? It's taking time out, doing some deep breathing, pausing, being aware of things around you, being in the moment, being present. When we do this, we become so enlightened as leaders. We don't second guess ourselves. We take time out for ourselves and for others. The second area is 360-degree feedback. Now, I know we all know about feedbacks because as HR leaders, we make sure that our teams and our departments are ensuring that they have, they're doing the feedback. But what about feedback for ourselves? Making sure that how we are perceived is what we want to put out in the world. Is that perception position, that perception analysis. How do I come across? Do I come across as aggressive or do I come across as assertive? Do I give people the benefit of the doubt or do I judge everyone? These are the things we need to look out for. And the last area is reflective journaling, keeping a record. This helps a catharsis almost, to make sure that we are doing the right things, saying the right things, and journaling our thoughts. So let's look at evolution. So when we're thinking about evolution, we're looking at rapid technological changes, globalizations, and economic fluctuations. So what does this mean in practice? Is how can we adapt to the changing world of work? With the rise of AI, with the rise of technology, we are living in a society where many people feel that their jobs are unstable. How do we make sure that they feel safe with all these changes? So let's look at these when it comes to creating a learning culture. We need to make sure that we are providing resources in different formats, in different ways, in different guises, in different methods, just like HR Week are doing this. 5 days of online, and there's interaction because people learn differently. We have to be able to adapt. The old style of learning no longer exists. Now we have to do microbytes. Now we have to integrate AI. Now we have to integrate chatbots. And there are different ways that we can do that. And we have to create a culture of failure. You might say, Michelle, we can't do that. We can't do that. Yes, we can, because the learning is in the failure. And we have to learn not to isolate and judge one person because they've done something wrong, because they will learn from it and they will innovate. So we have to create psychological safe environments where people can feel safe to make mistakes. It's all about adaptation. It's all about being ready for the future of HR. The future of leadership is being adaptable, is promoting a psychological safe workplace where people feel okay to share how they feel. And that's why I've put hashtag upward feedback, because sometimes we as leaders need feedback and we're not always going to like what we've got to hear, but we need to hear it nonetheless. So I want you to remember that upward feedback. So let's look at ethical leadership. What does that mean? That's where we are in a unique position to influence, define, and sustain ethical climate. And I want to give you an example of where I was challenged. We have to remember that we are the vanguards of our environment. We play such an important role. So if we are not being ethical and we are not creating an ethical environment, how can we ensure that employees are doing the right thing when no one's watching? So this is how we can foster an ethical culture. We can influence it by doing the right thing and promoting an environment and leading by example. I'll give you a quick example where I was in a situation where I was working in an organization and I noticed they were using out of date medical equipment. Now, when I drew this to their attention, he said to me, well, it still can be used. You can still use it. And I said, that's great. But we should let customers know that it is out of date, but is still usable. And he said, no, because they're not going to want to pay for it. And he said, we should sell it as it is. Now, I was doing the HR for this company. And I was in that position. Ethically, it's not right. Do I say something more? Do I make changes? Or should I just hide away and just keep my mouth shut? But then I realized that silence is complicity. And I knew that if I wanted to prove that ethical leadership should be a foundation and part of the culture, I would have to say something. And I did. And it cost me my job at this firm. But then I have to weigh up the pros and cons. Do I want to stay in a company where they are unethical, they do the wrong thing, they're not transparent, and then I can't sleep well at night? So for the future, you need to think about this for yourselves. How many of you are in roles, in jobs, and you know there's things that are not right, and you say nothing? This is why we need to encourage an open dialogue where we share our dilemmas, our challenges, things we are not happy with. But because we are trying to create a safety, a psychological safe workplace, we should be allowed to share. So let's look at empowering others. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, become more, that's when you are a true leader and a true leader of the future. I love this quote because my job here is to always inspire people to do more, to be better. Ask yourself the question, when have you been able to do that? So let's look at some examples. Impact on employee engagement. Engage employees feel a sense of responsibility. Give them ownership to win. Give them ownership to fail. Give them ownership to do what they need to do to empower themselves, but also promote the greatness of your company, of your department. Let me give you an example of two brands that do this well, Disney and Pret. They are great, absolutely great at doing this. So if you've ever been into Pret, you'll notice that the coffee shop has a typical customer loyalty program where they allow all the employees at some point to give free food away if they feel the need to do so. They are empowering their staff to decide when to give free food to people. I've had free coffee, I've had free cookies, croissants, and it was that employee who was empowered to do so. And Disney, they have a brand culture where all employees are the right person where there are challenges in the organization. So what they do when incidents arise, they call it the Disney magic, and they empower their employees to solve the situation themselves. So they might give them freebies. They may give them an extra ticket for one of the amusements at Disney. They are empowered to do this, and it makes their employee engagement higher. So this is what we need to do more of. Empowerment often leads to collaborative working environments, and we definitely need this for the future. We definitely need us working to better with each other. They feel supported. They can share when something's gone wrong and do not feel judged. They don't need to feel inferior. It's a small bump in the road rather than a long-term mistake that sticks with them throughout their career. That they start thinking, I haven't been promoted because of this mistake I made 5 years ago. I haven't been progressed in my position because of a mistake I made 3 weeks ago. We need a sense of grace as leaders, that empathetic leadership I spoke about, to empower others, to know that you can make a mistake, you can fail, but we can get it right for the future. So in conclusion, before I open up for questions, if there are any, the 4 E principles: enlightenment, evolution, ethical leadership, empowerment, are not merely aspirational. They are tangible pillars that we must all be a part of, that we must all embrace. As HR leaders, our mission is to embody these principles, integrate them in the DNA of our organization, and by doing so, we shape the future as more human-centric and not just results-driven. That's what makes the leader of the future. So guys, thank you so much for listening to this presentation. Feel free to connect with me. I now want to stop sharing and open up for questions. Thank you.
We are, Michelle, only because of time. There won't be a time for questions, but here's the thing. If you could you actually pop in the chat right now a link to your LinkedIn profile, perhaps?
Yes,
you pop that in right now. People who are watching, they're curious, they're intrigued, they'd like to know more, they can reach out to you directly, connect, and then take those conversations forward as well. Listen, an intriguing, insightful session to kick off our HR Development Day. And in fact, when you were talking about Disney, so in my previous life, many years ago, more than 20 years ago, working for Disneyland Paris, it's still the same. It's the same then as it is now, empowerment. So whenever we had an issue where an issue that had to be solved in some way, whether it was really small or something a lot bigger, the first point of call was us, right? We were given the kind of empowerment to kind of try to fix it. And so many issues that I managed to fix, small ones, gave me actually a lot more confidence to take on bigger problems as they unfold. So it's exactly what you were saying in terms of empowering employees. Listen, Michelle, thank you so much. Hopefully you'll be with us at least a little bit of the day today as well, or even tomorrow also. But thank you so much for sharing your insights. But most of all, thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.